Happy Halloween, everybody. My name is Patina Davis, and tonight I will be excuse me, I will be discussing the immigration policy. And the article that I chose in relations to this is a recent article that I have found in regards to Trump's administration. They are now completely undermining the immigration policy that we have, which allows immigrants the right to due process. Instead, if they do not possess the proper paperwork, they are being deportated instantly. They're all being deported without a fair trial, without legal representation, just completely undermining the policy that we have. It's very unfortunate. It's super sad because it's not fair to have, a policy set in stone to where it gives immigrants the rights to where they can have counsel and that they can go before a judge, only for the administration to come in and completely undermine it to where now, instead of, them going before a judge, you're just sent back to your country. In the article, Trump states that they're doing this because it saves resources. That way, they don't have to go to an ICE detention center to where they could be there for months, possibly a year or so, depending on the situation. Now, I'm honestly trying to figure out how does that save on resources when we're still using resources and money as well to have them, deported and the legal aspects behind that. And then as well, we have a policy that gives them the right to where they can have counsel. It's just it's very sad, and it's very scary to where the immigration policy that we have has some slight loopholes to where, his administration are finding these loopholes, and they're trying to come up with different policies and laws to where, they can ultimately just put a complete halt on immigration. And and it's also as well just making the process more lengthy and longer and stressful for those who are trying to come to the country, and apply for visas and so forth. um the policy, overall, it violates the due process and civil rights of immigrants, and it has created a chaotic scene at our southern borders, especially with these ICE detention centers, to where, if you don't have the paperwork, you're instantly being, deported back to your country, no questions asked, and it's not right. Um, from the article as well, I have this little section, and I'm going to give some insight on that the Trump has implemented immigration policies that appear to violate the constitutional due process rights and basic standards of medical and mental health care, and seemingly target immigrants based on demographics, including national origin, language status, and gender. The policies have resulted in the separation of family units, lasting trauma and heartache, and shocking detention conditions for both children and adults. Now, as well with this new policy that he's got in place, it's just further separating these families. And with the separation of these families, there's not a clear system that's in place that's going to reunite them. And then as well, if the main concern of these supposed undocumented workers that are coming over here, how are their families supposed to survive if if you deport the one sole person who was working, or the breadwinner of the family? How is that supposed to be effect? What positive aspect does that really have for our country, besides just unfortunately showing the sad reality that some immigrants have to go through just to come over here when the country itself is a melting pot full of people. It's just completely unfortunate. um the strengths and weaknesses of this is that the strength of it is that, I mean, unfortunately, for those who are coming illegally into the country, any slight little thing, you're unfortunately you're deported. It's really sad because we don't know these people's stories. We don't know why they're coming over there. Well, I'm sorry, why they are risking their lives to come over here, only to be judged, ridiculed, and ultimately sent back to their countries. Um, it's completely insane. I mean, I guess I mean, there's not a strength to the policy. There's not a strength to our immigration policy because, I mean, for our policy to be in place and for no one to uphold it, it's really sad. The biggest weakness of this is the fact that they're separating these families and that these children and these families are going to need a lot of assistance to kind of get over the trauma. You're separating, mothers from their children, fathers from their children. These people don't have any way to kind of, reunite and reconnect with each other. It's just kind of off of a whim. That's completely sad. And us as future social workers, we're most likely gonna come in contact with someone who was in one of these detention facilities, or someone who was deported, someone who had a family member that was deported, or someone who had to just experience the whole, possible deportation process. We're going to come in contact with these people, and we are, it's just going to be very just it's going to be very unfortunate, the just because the overall, just how do you honestly help someone cope with that type of trauma? That's my viewpoint. We can definitely help and do a service, but honestly, like, how do you really help someone who's had to experience that? Like, that is very scary and traumatic, especially for the children. Those centers are not the best. They do not have, any real resources to them. They're pretty much, unfortunately, a legal concentration camp under Trump's administration. My recommendation for the policy, for it to completely be changed, and you know, uh, for immigrants to be able to have their due process, for them to be able to go before a judge, it's their only legal right. I feel like that part is just being completely overlooked. And the idea of, how can I slow down the immigration process, or I guess further deter people from coming to the US. That's mostly like the main focus. I mean, we have the immigration policy. It's under our constitution, is in the law. So I'm just still not understanding how his administration is passing these crazy, ridiculous laws that are just completely just undermining these people's rights. Um, that is my presentation. I hope you guys find it informative. Um, as well. Oh, sorry. And as social workers, we can definitely promote change within this policy because, like I said, at the end of the day, we're going to come in contact with these people at some point in our lives. Whether it's the children, the adults, the grandparents, we're going to come in contact with these people. And, we're going to have to help them. And it's going to be a long road because this is something very traumatic. This isn't something that you just kind of go to therapy, for a couple of months, and you should be able to discuss it and get over it. Like, some of these families have been separated for some years now, and there's no way for them to reconnect. And it's a very unfortunate situation. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation, and that is all. Y'all have a great night and a happy Halloween.